A gift made by God to mankind. That is how the land of Mehedinti can be described. Situated in the southwest of Romania, with a grand landscape made of the Mehedinti and Cherno mountains, Mehedinti Plateau and the Motru Hills, the high tableland of Bolocica, built in steps that descend towards the Bolocica plain, mostly made by the Danube terraces. The county of Mehedinti is still breathing a patriarchal air with each mountain ridge and water murmur. You can have here the strongest feeling that time has stopped stone still between mountains and water. Life follows its natural course established from the very beginning, without being troubled by the urban events. Nothing seems to disturb this rhythm, followed by people for thousands of years, according to the law of the land. And this land helped them by offering forests where to rest in the shade, or hide from oppressors, and water to quench their thirst. It is said that long ago, before the Romans' arrival, Novak, the master of the giants, ruled here. According to the legend, Novak taught the people agriculture, drawing the land belt, or Novak's furrow, from west to east, entering Wallachia through the Iron Gates and continuing to the Don. He himself drove a plough drawn by 12 oxen. The number of the months of the year is also 12, which people honor by working the way Novak once taught them. The best-known legend of Mehedinti says that God took the stone out of this place to build the bridge. God's bridge, a real architectural natural wonder. The story says that a long time ago, the devil himself lived in Ponoare cave. Getting fed up with the evil this one brought about, the people asked God to get rid of him. So God slapped the ceiling of the cave, tumbling it down over the entrance. Nevertheless, the devil escaped by running under the hill and using the other mouth of the cave, which leads to the great Zatono lake. In his madness, seeing he is falling into the lake, the devil clung with his claws on the cave hill, and slipping down, he drew all the stones out of the land. It is said that this is how the stony places appeared here, unique in Romania, called the Field of Clints, Aphrodite and Cleopatra. The devil then might have climbed on the Devil's Rock, where he still watches the people of this land. There is now a new church in Ponoare near God's Bridge, having as patrons Saint Panteleimon and Saint Nicodem of Tismana. The natives believe that dedicating this sanctuary to God, the curse might be rendered void, and they would no longer have troubles. It is said that sometimes cars happen to remain without brakes when crossing the bridge, some of them falling down. But God saved all those inside so that no person died in these accidents. Nature was generous with these lands, making people enjoy the unique relief carved by the Danube, and the existence of special flora and fauna elements, many of them being listed in scientific reservations. There are many wild animals and birds in the area, which require special attention. There can still be seen wild horses in Mehedinti, which seem to be drawn from ancient times, a connection between the magical and the concrete, a natural metaphor of the present. The weather belongs to the continental temperate climate with slight Mediterranean influences. There are two karst lakes called the Great Zlatna and the Small Zlatna on both sides of God's Bridge. The former is a temporary lake situated in the upstream basin of Ponoare Cave of the Mehedinti Plateau, the largest in Romania. Although it is 20 meters deep and has an area of about 2 square kilometers, it dries up in times of drought. After a torrential downpour, the lake fills rapidly, full of mud, which gives it a reddish color. But after a while, when the silt is deposited on the bottom, it turns blue. Giving the impression of virgin nature, tourists enjoy the area of the hollows in any season, a region of unspoiled beauty of the Danube gorges, while the river is crossing the Carpathians for over 9 kilometers. The Iron Gates National Park is one of the 8 Ramsar sites in Romania. This site, due to its climatic, hydrographic, geomorphological conditions, which blend harmoniously with the floristic biodiversity, represents a real entomologic, herpetologic and ornithological sanctuary unexplored from a scientific point of view. The site comprises unique wetlands, rare or representative, including the Iron Gates Lake and the surrounding mountains called the Almaz and Lokve Mountains. It is characterized by wide spout mouths of the Danube tributaries and small human settlements that create favorable conditions for preserving the natural ecosystems. The large reed and rush surfaces ensure reproduction, nesting conditions and food for many species of birds. There are 34 types of habitats in the strictly protected area, while 210 species of birds out of the 500 species known in Europe meet here, either as sedentary, nesting species or just passing by. The foreign travelers of the 19th century related in their memoirs that the ships passing through the dangerous Danube Gorge, full of rocks and whirling waters of the Iron Gates, had to be drawn by oxen. The largest cave of the gorge is Ponikova, known also as the Cave of the Watermouth, or the Bat's Cave. The main entrance, which is the most accessible, is situated in Ponikova Gorge. One can enter the Bat's Gallery on a narrow path. This is a long hall over 100 meters, having on the floor tumbled blocks, holes, concretions, and mounds of guano from the relatively large bats that form impressive colonies in this cave. Declared as paleological reservation due to some fossils, a fragment of very old ceramics and some endemic species, Ponikova Cave represents a challenge both for scientists and tourists. The Iron Gates hydropower station of 2,050 megawatts power is the first in Europe of this size. Its location was chosen 15 kilometers upstream Drobeta-Tunu-Severin city, in an area known as the most dangerous place on the Danube because of the cataracts. The problem of the sailing line, often raised by the European Commission, was solved once the dam was built, and the accumulation lake, which appeared, was the largest in the world, being over 140 kilometers long. This lake stretches from the dam to the confluence with the Tisa River, comprising the Danube Defile, the largest in Europe, spread between Baziash and Orshova. The power station is an architectural and technological greatness, with many original and spectacular elements. The Kaplan turbine hall and the whole network of giants inside the dam and on its terraces. The Iron Gates, on a simple evaluation, is one of the most impetuous and expensive achievements of all times for Romania. These grand works required significant sacrifices too. Once flooded the place behind the dam, Ada-Kaleh became history. The natives tried to preserve it in one way or another. The cultural patrimony moved to museums all over the country, but the largest part of the Turkish stronghold was moved and rebuilt on the Shimian Island. Most inhabitants of the island left the country after flooding. We can only imagine the disappeared island. Cobblestone streets, winding alleys, rose bushes, nargile smells, coffee scents, Levantine flavors, and an old cellar of halva and Turkish delights. There are hopes that all these will reappear. There are hopes that the forgotten story of Ada-Kaleh will come to life again. A great open-air European museum and a botanical garden are to be set up on the Shimian Island. Listen, we may almost hear again the muezzin's calls to the mosque. Drobeta-Tunu-Severin is the administrative center of Mehedinti County, with a population of over 120,000 inhabitants. The emblem of the city is the water tower, a stylish work with a gyratory position in the main axis of the locality, inaugurated in 1914. The old city and the one that is being built under our eyes interweave in perfect harmony, completing and supporting each other. The pedestrian area on Cristiana Street and Tudor Vladimirescu Boulevard were among the 100 rehabilitated streets given back to the inhabitants of Severin. This fact will bring a greater influx of tourists in a city with an ample history and a European visiting card. Drobeta Tunu Severin appears as a proud and enlightened European city in the 19th century, and this was due to its public gardens and parks. The first of them appeared in 1839 on the Danube bank. It was called the Public Garden back then, but now it is named the Dragalina Park. The green spaces are of vital importance for the inhabitants of Severin, who take pride of tens of hectares of parks, relaxation or pedestrian areas. A monument dedicated to the memory of deported communist victims can be admired in this park. But the most important thing, which makes it different from the other parks, is the presence of the medieval stronghold ruins of Severin, founded in 1247 by the Yonite Knights. At the end of the 19th century, the people took pride in one more green area, the Rose Park. This park hosts the 1916 Heroes Monument, its central figure being Ekaterina Teodoroiu. The kinetic fountain in Drobeta Tunu Severin, called the Balachica Reel, was inaugurated in 1979, being one of the works of sculptor Constantin Lucaciu, a Herder Prize laureate. It is a sculpture that comprises the meanings of the large stellar spaces, of the movements of the heavenly bodies, of the huge nebula which give birth to shapes. This construction represents a harmony, setting up a system of relations between the visual and the sound form. One of the most beautiful buildings of the patrimony, laid in the center of Drobeta Tunu Severin, shelters the Art Museum. The dome adorned with oriental stylistic improvements and mirror mosaics, the paneling carved in oak wood, and the golden friezes create a sumptuousness and an elegance worthy of royal courts. Each room has its own charm given by the particular aspects of the decorations, to which there were added the inner windows and the Venetian crystal mirrors. Nothing has been forgotten, everything being in a harmonious balance between the past and the present. The Museum of the Iron Gates shelters important evidence of the human settlements in this region ever since times immemorial. Homo sapiens lived 9,500 years ago and built here the oldest settlement known in Europe. The proof lies in the Skala Kladovi culture. It developed between the years 8000 and 5500 BC, its name coming from a district of Severin city. In its showcases, there are archaeological vestiges, real pages of spiritual and material life belonging to the Ghetto-Dacian civilization, but also many artifacts of the Roman epoch. Built between 103 and 105 AD, Trajan's Bridge, which was 1,135 meters long, was designed by architect Apollodorus of Damascus, the creator of Trajan's Column. Now, both natives and tourists come across a replica of Trajan's Bridge at the entrance from Timișoara into Drobeta Turnul Severin, which represents an exact copy of the bridge over the Danube, designed by Apollodor of Damascus. The aim of this modern work is teaching a history lesson which bears the undeniable signature of the ancient city on the Danube bank. At night, the play of lights and water, which flows over the borders of the construction, offers the passers-by a real show of color.
Drobeta Turnul Severin este, în opinia mea, cel mai frumos oraș românesc de la Dunăre. Este un uriaș anfiteatru în aer liber, un oraș cu farmec aparte și, cel mai important, cu oameni deosebiți.
As the date of the city's setting up is close to the religious celebration of Saint George the Martyr, the natives have chosen him as the spiritual patron of the city. That's why Severin's days are celebrated every year on April the 22nd and 23rd. There are organized colloquia and symposiums dedicated to the city's history, exhibitions, sports contests, religious festivities, parades of vintage costumes or popular costumes, music and dance shows, and fireworks. During the celebrations of Severin, there takes place a parade of medieval costumes, including armors, sidearms and firearms, so that, for a moment, you may have the sensation that you have been carried away hundreds of years ago, in an epoch which this city still remembers a lot. The rural celebrations of Mehedinti are shrouded in a magical atmosphere. The traditional costume in the Mehedinti region is characterized by a dynamics of colors, grouped distinctively according to age, occasion, or season. In the popular calendar, this moment marks the transition from the summer season to winter, to picking up the lost healing plants, the departure of migratory birds, the concealment of reptiles underground, and the measurement of crops. People still preserve the local traditions and stories, wearing proudly the popular attire. Among the costumes, there are items that perform a function in the development of certain customs or rituals connected to the cycle of personal or social life, such as birth, access to the village community, wedding, or death. All the people of the village sing, dance, light fires in the evening, as through fire the place is purified of the evil spirits which might harm the next harvest and sicken the cattle. Closing down the agrarian cycle of the year, according to the Dacian calendar, the natives gather on the hills surrounding their villages to preserve the pre-Christian custom of honoring goddess Gaia, a celebration dedicated to the land. Close to Novak's furrow, drawn by the Titan himself, time seems to have stopped, astonished to notice that the inhabitants of this land remained deep down their souls as clean as they were a few thousand years ago.